Girlies, it was magical.
I said you'll have fun, and I won't disappoint you.
Welcome, fellow KISS fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a KISS fan. Maybe a day or two late this week, but we had a very fun week, and I want to talk about that. We're going to talk a little merch, do a hot face, and then to the main topic. Paul's hung up. Paul's also crooked because Paul has paper rot. So he's never leaving that frame. It took a while to get him in there. He's crooked. Paper rot. We're not touching it. But Paul's in the house. Let's hot face. My hot face this week is KISS collecting, and that's it. Just got back from the Knights in Satan Service Museum and kind of had a revelation about myself and collecting. And I've felt pulled towards this for the past year. I felt it nudging at the back of my shirt like a little kid saying, hey, go down this rabbit hole, don't go that way. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick strictly vintage merch. I'm probably going to collect from 74 through 94. 94 was when I was in college, and everything still kind of had that underground after school club vibe that I loved. Once the reunion tour hit, not that it wasn't fun anymore, collectibles became like something I would buy and then 2 weeks later be like, what in the hell am I doing? And that's how I felt with KISS Online lately. So I'm leaving KISS Online. It's no more. My collecting circle is only going to be vintage 74, 94, eBay, in the wild. That's what we're doing. And I think the tour had a lot to do with that. One of the other guests of the tour that day mentioned KISS Online while we were doing the tour, and I thought, surrounded by all this stuff, KISS Online just seems very boring to me. So I've made a choice. That's where we're going. What is your hot face? Leave those comments below and let's wax. So real quick, in nostalgia and fun, we have, iron-ons. I love iron-ons. That's a big rabbit hole of mine. This is very cool. 1979, the New York Daily News ran a Dynasty iron-on to celebrate Dynasty at Madison Square Garden for that run of dates. And this was in the New York Daily News on Sunday. Next up, next week, the Village people. Have your mom, dad cut this out. Put this on a t-shirt. Little M&M's ad on the back. Instructions down here. Caution, if you have never used an iron before, have an adult member of your family apply the heat transfer for you to be sure the t-shirt comes out right. How freaking cool is that? 1979, New York Daily News. Now for the major fun, let's go and talk the Knights in Satan Service Museum.
Hey, this is John 5, and I want to invite you to the Knights in Satan Service KISS Museum.
First up, I do not want to give any spoilers because there's still 2 weeks of the museum left, and I don't want to spoil anything that is discussed. I'm just going to talk about some of the major things I loved seeing, and I won't give any spoilers away of what John discussed or what anyone in my group discussed, because it could be discussed again. I'm sure the tour is different every day. As we know, it's a tour of 6 people a day, and my day was only 4. There was only 4 people my day, so it was myself and 3 other KISS fans. Of course, KISS fans, we're all nerds and we all get along, and the minute you meet, everyone has a bond. That's beautiful. And as mentioned in his lives about this, you're picked up at a destination point. So I flew out on Tuesday, Wednesday morning, arrived at my destination point like an hour early because LA traffic, you never know what it's going to be like. Stood around, and eventually your pickup contacts show up, and you know it's them because they're wearing Knights in Satan Service t-shirts. And of course your guides are super cool, and you just kind of hang around until everyone shows up, and my tour was at 11 o'clock, so I think they showed up maybe 15 minutes early, and we just hung out, talked Kiss, of course, talked music, talked John 5. Everyone else showed up. We all like hung out, got to know each other, and everyone's very cool. I doubt you'll ever be in a tour where someone's not cool, because everyone's a Kiss fan, everyone's there for the same reason. We love this stuff. You are then driven to the museum, and the door opens, and there's John 5. It's very much like Willy Wonka. In fact, I even said that to him. When I shook his hand, I said, you should have come out with a cane like Willy Wonka. Because, I mean, this is what this whole experience feels like. It feels like we get to go inside the chocolate factory. Like, we have watched the chocolate factory, Nights in Satan Service, for so long. We've watched the Instagram, we've watched Kiss My Collectibles, and now we get to see this museum of a collection. And I had one of my friends who went to the museum the week before me message me, and he said it's overwhelming. And in a very good way, that is the one word I can describe about walking into that room. I had goosebumps immediately, and I nerded out, and I said that out loud, and another guy on the tour said he did too, because it is, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. It is fucking magical. It is everything we love, all in one room to look at. I went to a Star Wars museum of Kenner toys a couple weeks prior to this. That was fun. This is next level, like way beyond anything you can imagine. If you love what we do here and you love what you do as a hobby, this is the greatest experience in the world. And I have to say, first off and foremost, thank you, John 5, for doing this. I remember Halloween night 2022, I got my Nights in Satan Service Elder shirt in the mail that day, and I had, of course, I wanted to post it, and so I had large Marge and Pee Wee in the photo, and I was have been and always will be a huge fan of Nights in Satan Service. When this became available, I thought back to that photo, and I thought, man, in 2022, we had zero idea you would be able to possibly see this collection in real life. And to have that opportunity is the coolest gesture in the world. So first off and foremost, thank you, John 5, for doing this. Thank you for making this possible, because it's not expensive. It's fairly easy to travel out there. And if you're a Kiss collector, we always talk about Kiss days here, like having a full-on Kiss day. This is the absolute greatest Kiss day ever in your life. Greatest Kiss day ever in my life, and if you love Kiss, it will be your greatest day too. I guarantee anyone who's done it would agree. The absolute greatest Kiss day ever. Nothing will ever top this. Now that my gushing is over, the museum, you just walk in, it's the collection, it's on display, Kiss music is playing, John 5 is there, and the tour starts. It is just absolute magic. And I really feared, because when he did his live on Instagram, a lot of the comments were not about Kiss. It was like, tell Nikki Sixx to add deeper cuts to the set list and all that. And I thought, oh my gosh, please do not let that kind of talk enter this museum. Like, we're here to talk about Kiss. I hope nobody fanboys out about Motley Crue. I love Motley Crue too. Motley Crue's very important and very cool, but let's keep it nerdy, let's keep it Kiss, and that is what it is. The minute you walk into that museum to the minute you leave, it is all Kiss. That is all you talk about. Kiss collecting every second of those 2 hours. If that doesn't make you smile and let you know it's the greatest Kiss day ever, all you do is talk about Kiss, John 5's there, and the greatest merch ever in the world is there. Kiss history is surrounding you. There's no other explanation than, my goodness, just the most beautiful, perfect day ever. To not spoil anything, I'm just going to go through my top list of things I absolutely loved seeing and just kind of nerd gush over those. So here it is, my favorite moments of the Knights in Satan Service Museum. Thank you, John 5. I kind of made a mental list of things I knew I wanted to see because I knew time is limited there, and it does feel like 12 minutes. That's what all my friends said. They said, you're in and out. It doesn't feel like it lasts 2 hours, but it does. And gosh dang, it's just amazing. Anyway, we started off at the Aussie case, and Aussie was one of my items I wanted to see. I love Aussie merch. When I first became a fan and I saw Inner Sanctum, dang, you know, once they hit that merchandising section,
And then there's the merchandising.
Danny and I were sold. Aussie merch, 1980 Australia, the coolest era of Kiss ever. We're looking at the Aussie merch. He did have the diary. Of course, he had two, and this warmed my heart because he said one of the diaries he thought was super cool because it actually had a kid's name in the "This Book Belongs To" section. His, of course, was much nicer than mine. My binding's going to hell. But it actually had a kid's name in the "This Book Belongs To" section. And that's Kiss fan history. We talk about that all the time on this channel. I loved that. But my favorite part of the Aussie case was there was this black and white photo, piece of paper, of the Unmasked album. Drawing, black and white drawing. And I said, what is that? That looks like a coloring book. And he said, that's a great question. This came from a bank in Australia. Kids would get this, and their job was to color it. And if they brought it back colored, they would get like a savings bond. We always talk about Woolworth's Kiss magic here. Like the childhood of being a Kiss fan. Like 8-year-old kids loving Kiss and it being kind of cheesy and for kids. That hits the freaking nail on the head, and it's just so beautiful to imagine a kid would get a coloring sheet to fill out. Like, remember when you used to go to Shoney's when you were little and they'd give you like a little placemat of like the Shoney's bear and you get a little box of crayons? That's what these kids got, but it was Kiss. It was Unmasked. It was 1980. Dang. And to get a savings bond for it, you're getting paid to do Kiss artwork. That is the freaking coolest. When we hit the tour books, I noticed that he had 3 versions of the Dynasty tour book, which I love Dynasty and I love the 3 versions. I was so happy to finally complete the 3 versions myself. I thought, oh, that's cool. And I said, do you have the Return of Kiss tour book? Because it was not there. It is actually hanging on the wall. And so he told some cool stories about that. I'll leave those out, no spoilers. But it was just amazing to see that. Like, you always hear about the legend of that tour book being sold at 2 shows. It's right there in front of you. A $10,000 tour book, you know? Like, probably even more than that. My goodness. I'm probably going to say my goodness and shake my head a lot in this because I'm still in kind of disbelief. Like, every now and then I see a picture and it takes me right back to something else. I'm like, wow, I totally forgot about seeing that. It was just magical. Absolutely magical.
Here from Kiss is Gene Simmons.
The Gene Simmons 1974 Batwing costume. You were worn on the Hotter Than Hell album cover, worn on Mike Douglas. Just to see that in person is amazing. Like, you don't get any more Kiss history than that. That is the beginning of the beginning, you know. And he tells a very cool story about the opening and how he got the information. And this isn't a spoiler, but I would say ask about how he got the information, because when you see that he has saved how he got the information, it's just so it's just so heartwarming because I don't mean this in any ill way. He's a nerd just like us. Like, it's the little things that matter to him, and even the way a bit of information is provided about an item, he keeps that. And it's just so heartwarming, and you just feel at home. If you love this stuff, you feel it. The room is aglow of Kiss fun. On that same tit of the Gene Simmons costume, his Destroyer boots, the last remaining pair of his Destroyer boots, are amazing to see. And it's so weird to see the fabric they're made out of, the texture of it, because it is not at all what you have in your mind seeing the Destroyer cover your entire life. Seeing Kiss in comic books with those boots on. It is so bizarre to see that it's just man-made material. And just staring at those eyes, I swear, just staring at those eyes, like my entire life, even pre-being a Kiss fan, seeing the Destroyer cover when I was in the first grade. I love those boots. I had no idea who these guys were, but I love those boots, those cartoon boots on that album cover. And just seeing those eyes glow at you in that reflective red, beautiful. One item I've never seen in real life, I've only seen in pictures, are the Aussie bags from the tour. The gift bags that you would get if you bought merch at the merch stand. Gene, Paul, Ace, Eric on the front, the band on the back. I never knew how big those are. Those things are gigantic. I have to get one now. That is going to be a rabbit hole thing to get, is one of those bags. And then he has even more bags, like record store bags from Mexico, from Chile, like things you never even knew existed. The Japan Elder bag, like crazy stuff. Kids buying records in a record store would get like this tote of Kiss. Things you never thought of when you were 19. That's why I love foreign pressings. That's why I love foreign merch. It's amazing. And I thought at the pop-up store in New York 2 years ago that I was pretty enamored with seeing Paul's Dynasty costume. And I still am. That was still one of the coolest things ever. But he has Peter's Dynasty outfit. And it is so cool. It doesn't have the lion heads, but he tells some great stories about the lion heads and where they are currently. And just to see, man, that tight spandex and that green fluff of those tails and that 3 on the back, that is magic, because that is just stuff we see all the time, and you always kind of just forget that Superman is a normal person and also puts on a cape. Speaking of capes, the Ace cape is another thing I definitely wrote down that I wanted to see, and I actually wanted a picture of, because that cape just means everything to me. Like, I love Dynasty so much, that is like seeing Superman's cape. It's gigantic. How awesome is that? That freaking cape. You all know how cool that thing looks in videos. I think my smile says it all.
Hi, Curly.
One thing that I was actually shocked about was I've never seen the record player in real life. I do want a record player sometime, but as we all know, they're faked a lot. And so, kind of iffy to buy one. If you can find one with the box, even better. And it shocked me how small that box is. That box is kind of tiny. And that led our group into a great conversation when we discussed merch as we walked on. Just got goosebumps again, because John's favorite saying was, it's all about the box. Like, the merch is cool, but if you have the shipping box it came in, that's even cooler, because it's just a box with like a code E58 Kiss record player. That's it. But I mean, that is magical. Major goosebumps thinking about that. And I'm sorry, I sound like a complete dork ending every little topic with it's amazing, or it's so cool, or it's magical. Because my God, it is. It simply is. we're all pretty nerd collectors, and we all have our own niches and things we like to chase, and rabbit holes and tendencies and whatnot. He is such a completist, it is beautiful. One of the coolest highlights, of course, for me, Halloween costumes. Love those ever since I've been a collector. He has every size of the Halloween mask, which is very cool. Small to large, child sizes, completely sealed, wrappers, everything. If we all could be so lucky. But Halloween costumes were a blast to see, and he has the Ace prototype mask, which I'll leave out any details because it's very cool to hear about. But that, holding that, the prototype mask that created so many kids' Halloween memories from 1978 to 1981. Again, sorry to always say it, but that's beautiful. We all know what a big Phantom of the Park geek I am. Probably all of you are too. I have a Phantom of the Park movie script, but probably photocopied first draft from the 90s. He has a Phantom of the Park movie script from the freaking set. It is beat up, coffee stained, grungy, beautiful. It is brown, beautiful. And the Magic Mountain winter kit, the parking passes, the tickets, the instructions upon what you should do when you get there. We've all seen this stuff before. This has been, posted about, and it's in the Phantom book from Elaine Beliche and Paris Strid. Just breathtaking to see that in person, in a frame. And the beauty of it all, because I love that childhood magic of Kiss, there is a little free slushie coupon that a kid could use inside Magic Mountain to get a free slushie. Speaking of slushies, let's talk about the Scream Cups. We looked at of course, Scream Cups. They're all there in all their colors, all beautiful. And I'll go ahead and mention this because this is common knowledge. He did mention that they are extremely fragile, and getting one that is not broken is almost nearly impossible. And I asked, are they more fragile than the Lady Jane trays? Because we know those are fragile as well. And his answer was very funny. He said, yes. No, they are not. Because we all know the Lady Jane trays. You breathe, you sneeze, and those things fall apart. But it was very cool seeing the Scream Cups. I did ask about the Phantom tie-in with the orange, and some good stuff there. He has a super cool display of the Chu-Bops and all the fun there, and of course shipping boxes because it's all about the box. But we did talk about the Dynasty Chu-Bop because it is there, and it is only German. Dynasty Chu-Bop. Wow. From Germany. Gum. And a little album. Have to get one of those one day. Without paying Slayer Forever prices. Being a Dynasty boy at heart and in love with that childhood magic, I do love Rub and Play because this is pretty much it. This is the last toy really in America that kids could buy, because after this it dried up in America. And of course he has the prototype of how they designed this box. And just that, staring at that kind of stuff. Never thought I'd see it in my life. Never thought I'd see it posted on his page. To see it in person, game changer. Love this stuff, man. As far as ads go, like stuff hanging on the wall, I think the one that took my breath away the most were the bus ads from Madison Square Garden that were on the sides of buses. I won't give away spoilers, but how those were obtained is a beautiful story and just magical, and adds to the fun of collecting that somebody got those and kept those for this long. They're gigantic. Bus ads. New York City buses. Glorious. The 77 Ace armbands were very cool to see. And again, much like the jean boots, the consistency of their fabric is crazy. And also, there's a crazy story about he even slipped one on his arm and showed how loose they are. And so there's a crazy story of how they're not loose when Ace wore them in '77. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Probably the coolest Ace costume ever, although I like Dynasty costume. The Love Gun '77 Ace costume is just classic. All of the foreign pressings, all of the countries, mind-boggling, like overwhelming. You could spend an entire day at foreign pressing vinyl. It's beautiful. And, you know, sometimes I feel like, oh, I have a lot of cool foreign pressings. No, I don't. I don't have anything cool. And I was talking to one of the tour guides, and he said, do you collect foreign pressings? And I said, I would love to do all of this, like all of these countries, all of these records. I said, but I can't, so I'm only focused on Dynasty. Like, I want to get every country of Dynasty. And he did bring up a good point to me. He said, Dynasty is a great one to do it, because they were so big at that time. A lot of countries pressed Dynasty. But the coolest one I saw, and this is common knowledge, so I don't mind spilling it, coolest one I saw was Finland, Creatures of the Night, the only album Finland pressed. Creatures of the Night. This is not it. This is Argentina, but how awesome is that? The Ace Monopoly board that Bill Aucoin made the band in '77, stained glass Monopoly boards, made them for each member. The Ace one is there. I think they're in the history book and the auction book, if I'm not mistaken. But seeing that in person is incredible, and the story he tells about the Peter Monopoly board is even better. So we're going to close out this memory lane video with three things really, that just melt my heart. First off, the Kiss Army flag. The actual flag that you have always seen those kids holding in 1975 outside of that radio station that started the Kiss Army. How often is the phrase Kiss Army used, you know, in everyday life? Well, not for most normal people, but us nerds. How often is that used? Kiss Army this, Kiss Army that, Kiss Army kits. I want to join the Kiss Army. It's always there, and to see that actual flag that those kids made, it's history. Absolute history. And lastly, for me, the two things I loved seeing the most were buttons, and one were the set of Backstage Pass buttons, which we've all seen, all different colors. The story behind the different colors was so cool, but to hear it and see each button is perfect. Those are probably faked pretty easy, but man, I would love to find those. I wouldn't want to know what took place to get one of those buttons, but that's naughty business. And another button thing I loved was the Australian badges.
Badgers? Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers!
And there are so many of them, and I don't think this is bad to share. The reason there are so many of them, and I love this, goes back to the childhood magic of being a Kiss fan. When we were little in America, what did we love to do? We loved to go to the mall, to the t-shirt shop, right? Flip through those books, get yourself a Dukes of Hazzard iron-on, get yourself a Kiss iron-on, get yourself an Eric Estrada iron-on. In Australia, they did badges. They would pick out a picture, boom, button is made. So those Kiss Australian buttons, as long as they are old and authentic from 1980, the possibilities are endless on that. And that was amazing to look at and tie in that childhood story, because I loved the t-shirt shop when I was little. And just to imagine some happy ass Australian fans in 1980 getting their buttons made warms my freaking heart. And I don't want to close tonight doing the Rock and Roll Night and Journal every day, because this trip was magical, and I don't want to spoil it with any of the lameness of the Kiss Journal. But I will say, you know, a lot of people talk online, and a lot of people have said, kind of bash this, saying you're just paying to see a collection. And to me, you're not. You're paying to surround yourself with what you love. And if you love this stuff, this is a bargain. You think about doing a meet and greet for a band, it's $1,000 plus. And what? You fist bump 4 guys, get a picture taken, and you're out the door? This is 2 hours with John 5, one of the greatest guitarists to ever live, the guitar player of Motley Crue, in a museum of Kiss merch. And you're talking Kiss for 2 hours. Like I said, the minute you walk in to the minute you leave, you're talking Kiss. You play Kiss pinball with John 5. This price is unbelievable. This experience is unbelievable. By far the coolest music trip I've ever taken, and without a doubt, the greatest Kiss day I will ever have for the rest of my life. Once again, thank you, John 5, for allowing us Kiss nerds this chance to visit the chocolate factory and see the magic of all of this. And these girlies say, it is good to have you back, Daddy, but we are back to doing our Napolis. Thank you for hanging with us tonight. Thank you for waxing a little rock and roll nostalgia with us here in the Wax Night House. Be good to your babies. Spay, neuter, microchip. Take care. Be safe. We will talk to you soon.